Hey, everybody. Welcome to the MarketingBox podcast. And today we have a very special guest in the studio. And we're going to do a deep dive into real estate, where the market's going, tips and tricks and tactics. And you're going to hear it all from an expert. And he happens to be my son, Shawn Burst Jr. Shawn, welcome to the MarketingBox podcast, brother.
Yep. Thanks for having me. I'm excited. The podcast, the studio looks awesome. So the neon lights. Yep.
Yeah. So what's going on, man? The world is kind of changed. And just as a little intro, Shawn has been in the real estate business for how long?
9 years.
9 years. He's been a top agent over here in Mandeville. He was a top 1%, under 30 years old in the country. And what I've noticed about him, and I've gotten to take advantage of his skills on more than one occasion. And we have some really great stories of how he's defied the odds and set entire new price points for markets, like well above and beyond. And so, he brings a tremendous amount. He has an insatiable appetite to learn. He's always studying. He understands the trends. When they list a house, they were always a third. If they were average house is selling in 30 days, they're selling it in 10 days. So I think for real estate agents, you're going to learn some things and how he goes about his stuff. And then also we're going to talk about the state of the real estate industry and what's to come and how to be prepared and how to win no matter what the conditions are. So yeah, man. So what's going on right now in the world? Like, I mean, the real estate market, the economy's changing. How is that affecting the real estate market?
Yeah. So I think, the biggest factor right now is interest rates just climbing astronomically. I mean, the average mortgage rate last year was under 3% at this time, and today it's 6.5%. So, I mean, when you look at an average payment, that pretty much doubles your average mortgage payment for the same house.
Yeah.
So, and it's not, now that's for mortgage, it doesn't include tax and insurance. So it's not exactly double, but your buying power goes down, 60% at least. So I think that's the main factor that we need to look at, just from why is nationally this happening, but also from local areas in different pockets of the country that are being affected differently. With inflation, it's squeezing everybody. You have people that had, that were going to buy the median price house in the country, $399,000 is what it was, last month. And those might be the middle class, or, in most areas, the upper lower middle class, or the middle class. Mm-hmm. And those people are getting squeezed to death by inflation. And so
what are you seeing happen in the market? Like, has this affected you?
Yeah. So first of all, you're seeing deals fall apart. So because of interest rates rise, and we also have here locally, we have an insurance crisis. We had that big hurricane hit us last year, for people who don't know, and that really affected insurance prices. Went up about 70%. They're going to go up another 63% next year, which ultimately affects payments, because people don't, I know people always talk about price per square foot or the price of the house, but really what people buy is they buy payments.
They buy payments, yeah.
Yeah. And
Same way in the car business.
Yeah. And so when you go to a lender and you go let's say you're making $10,000 a month, they're going to say you're approved for 29% of your front end income. So let's say, so that's $2,900 a month on a payment. Now the back end ratio is more complicated to calculate. So just for easy purposes, we're going to say $2,900 is what you're paid for. Well, when your payment goes up significantly, now instead of buying a $550,000 house here locally, which is that's what it would have bought you a year ago, now you're looking closer to $425,000, $400,000.
And there's not a lot of inventory. I guess that's the sweet spot for everybody.
Correct. So yeah, now that's pushed all the buyers down, into these lower category of pricing. But then also you have these houses that were appraising for $550 6 months ago. 6 months ago, the market peaked. February was the tippy top of the market. That's when rates were still below, right at or right below 4%.
Yep.
And inventory, we have double the amount of inventory today as we did in February. Double.
Wow.
Yeah, nationwide.
Wow.
So there was roughly right under 300,000. Now there's 550,000 homes on the market, not pending.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of factors, but it's payments. Then it's simple supply and demand. It's now there's more people are listing their houses. There's people you're starting to see, and I'm starting to see sellers who are in actual economic trouble. It's hey, we're missing credit card payments, we're missing mortgage payments, we're in pre-foreclosure, and we have to sell. Now, the good thing is that if you bought outside of the last 12 months, if you bought any time before then, you probably have a significant amount of equity, just because how the market increased almost 20% just in 2020 alone.
Wow.
In 2021 to the beginning of 2022, the market increased 10% just from Christmas to the end of January.
Wow.
Just in one like 45 days. And so a lot of these people have equity, so that's the good thing. They can get out, but how long is that going to last? How long are they going to have significant amounts of equity?
And they still have equity even though the rates have but are the houses so what is it doing to the market? Is there less houses being listed or less people qualifying, or is it a perfect storm and both things are happening?
Both things are happening. Well, it's actually more inventory starting to pick up. Now, more inventory is relative because we're still down 43% from 2019. So it's 43% less homes listed than there was in 2019.
Okay.
But the difference is we were at pricing was based on low interest rates, because you remember payment buyers, and supply and demand. There was no supply and a ton of demand.
Right.
Because now people had access to payments for houses, and they were getting money so cheap, and so they were able to get so much more house, and so it didn't matter if you were paying $50,000 more because it affected your payments so little, and you were approved for more. So where now that's not happening. The average list to sales price ratio, which means what do you list a house for to what do you actually get, has gone down 20% because it was over 100% on average.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because even on my Range Rover, I think back in February or March, whenever we were in Florida for spring break, maybe March, April, that's when my lease was up, and my lease end was $62,000, and you couldn't buy that car for less than $95,000 anywhere, right?
Right.
But now you look from March, April to now it's back at what I paid for it. It's $30,000. 30% of the price has dropped off since 4 or 5 months.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. And, so what does this mean for anybody who owns a house or real estate agents or loan officers? Is what it means is we're going to have the worst fall. We're going to have the worst fourth quarter in the last probably 8 years in real estate. That's what it means. And it's because we're dealing with normally the seasonality in real estate. 50% of home sales happen between April 1st and August 1st, which means those are homes getting under contract between the middle of February and really early July. That's what that means, really late June. Okay. So the market slows down. It usually slows down from July 4th all the way past Labor Day. It sort of picks up in the fall, and then it shuts down pretty much Thanksgiving to Christmas. Now, obviously, there are houses that sell all the time, no matter what condition, no matter what the market is. But typically, there's significantly less. There's more price reductions. But, in an average fall, you're looking at, and this was before all the craziness with the pandemic, and then what happened in 2021, and then the beginning of 2022. But typically, you're seeing about a third of homes have to reduce their price at least once during the fall to get under contract.
Wow.
Right now, in a city like Boise, it's 60% of homes have had a price reduction. 60, and that doesn't even include the ones that are under contract. So the ones that are under contract, by the time you look at all the data, you have to look at the data from next quarter to come look back, but it might be 70%, 80%. So cities like Phoenix, Austin, Boise, Las Vegas, the markets that really boomed.
Yep.
It's the rubber band effect. It's hitting them back harder than other areas that were more stabilized.
I wonder if any of that had to do, during the pandemic, there was a huge migration from cities into more safer locales. Austin had a real big influx of people from California. Yep. I'm sure Boise probably had the same thing.
Same thing, yeah.
The same kind of thing. So, so that, that makes those markets, they were artificially inflated because
Correct.
of the pandemic and people fleeing from the cities.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I think this is going to continue. I do think we're still not back at normal inventory, and I don't think we're going to be there for a while until you start seeing more financial distress. If the economy keeps getting worse and people keep getting in stress, the easiest thing to get rid of your car note might be, you got to have a car to drive, so right. you can't stop paying your car note.
Yep.
You got to have a cell phone, so it's like you're not going to drop your $100, but you're not going to stop eating. Yep. So it's like the average mortgage in America, let's say it's $2,000 a month right now. that's the easiest thing just to quit. You know, it's, hey, let's stop this. Let's sell our house. We have some equity. Let's go rent, or let's go get a smaller house. And so I think if things like that start to happen, inventory will pick up. But if not, I think the market can slightly recover in the spring as long as interest rates don't get above where they're at today. But the Fed...
What they said, I think they said they're raising it another at 75 basis points, then another 75.
Yeah.
So I think there's another point or 2 points in interest rates. What is that? What do you think that's going to do to the market?
Yeah. So, and not to nerd out on this, and I won't dive too deep because there's plenty of other experts who are going to talk about this. But the real estate mortgage rates are not based on what the Fed set the interest rate at. They're based on the bond market. The bond market is directly correlated to the Fed's rates, but it doesn't always match perfectly. So,
so they might go up, but then rates might not go up.
Yeah, like I'll give you an example. In August, when they did the bump, the federal bump, mortgage rates got down into the fours for the first time in 8 months since February. So, since early March, and now they jump right back up because the market's reacting to what's going on in the economy. But I think if rates get above where they're at, you know, if like some experts are saying, they could get to 8%, 9%. I mean,
it's just going to destroy the market totally.
It'll just halt. It'll completely come to a halt, I think. So it's people aren't going to sell it because if you're locked in at 3% right now and you go to 9%, your mortgage payment's going to be more than double than what you're at. So it doesn't make sense to move. No.
So everybody just sits still at that point.
It completely stops. And you're kind of seeing that this fall, you know, talking to a lot of loan officers. You know, I know a loan officer who usually does 1,100 deals. Last year she did 1,100 deals in a year. She's not busy at all. She'll do less than 20 loans next month.
Wow.
So yeah, she's cut by
80%.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So, you know, the real estate segment, you know, I don't remember how many real estate agents there are, but there's like an enormous amount of new real estate agents coming into the market all the time. Yeah. I would imagine this is going to, only the strong are going to survive in this, and only the strong that have, like, where does a real estate agent go? Like in the midst of all this, where is the opening or crack, and where can you still thrive? There's always some kind of crack. And so what is that crack that you can get in where you're doing good and maybe everybody else is suffering? Yeah,
and just to preface this, we are in currently a real estate professional recession, depression, whatever you want to call it, right? It's the real estate market prices are falling, but not significantly. Like we're talking about from the height. If you look at numbers from last year, this time to this year, the prices are only down 3%. Now, from February this year, where the height to now, it's 10%.
Wow.
Yeah, it's 8 to 10% depending on what market. Like our market's a little bit less just because we're more of a stabilized market. We don't have a whole lot of people. We don't have a whole lot of drivers to our area outside of, you know, we pull a lot of people from the city of New Orleans, just looking to get out of the hustle and bustle and more into a suburb. But it's, we're in, you know, so this affects a lot of people. It affects real estate agents. It affects loan officers. It affects appraisers, title companies, inspection companies, and so it's this whole economic bubble that is now completely in a recession. It's not even a question. We're going to lose. I think 30% of real estate professionals.
Wow.
Yeah, we're going to lose that many. And
across all the spokes in the wheel.
Yep. Yeah. Now that's an estimation. I don't have any data to support that right this second, other than what I'm hearing boots on the ground, things that I'm listening to, and just understanding, hey, if agents aren't selling as many houses, or buyers aren't refinancing, or homeowners aren't refinancing,
right?
Then you cut. So a good loan officer is usually going to do 60 to 75% new purchases, and 40 to 25% refinances.
Right.
Refinances are gone. Again, unless you're somebody in economic trouble who, you still have enough credit where you can go refinance your house, get cash out, and go fix some problems. But usually people are doing, home equity lines of credit is where you borrow against the equity, or second mortgages, as opposed to getting rid of their low rate. So it's just it's a problem, and people don't understand that, but it's a bad situation. Now there's agents, like we saw this coming. So in middle of 2020, I started saying we have a massive inventory problem. I need to start getting into development, new build specs.
Okay.
We did that. We made more money in the last 18 months in new development specs and new construction than we did our entire real estate career.
So is that going to still be available with this?
No. So we pivoted from that, and now, for real estate agents to make it, for loan officers, for title companies, for inspectors, unfortunately, it's like I just don't think there's a whole lot you can do other than potentially you need to go get more market share right now, or you need to be able to hold on, because when you lose 30 or 40 or whatever the percentage is going to be, when the market starts to pick back up, there's going to be more business for the ones that stay standing. The same thing happened the last recession. I studied a lot about, I wasn't in real estate, I was in high school in the last recession, but the last recession, the agents that made it through the fire, the people who made it through the fire were incredibly, and I have a couple stories about that I'll jump into, but it's, for real estate agents, it's focusing on people who are in economic despair or distress, and you being a resource for them. And it's like, well, I know agents that might be listening to this might be thinking, well, yeah, but we can't sell our listings. Things are just sitting. What do we do? Well, a couple tips. So offering, commissions have shrunk the last 24 months, which makes sense because the market was really easy, and it was easy to sell your house. You didn't have to pay as much commission. But, I'm coaching all my sellers right now. Let's offer even more commission to the buyer side because they're selling fewer houses, and let's just call it what it is. A lot of agents are going to push the deal that they get paid the most. I mean, that's a shame. I don't do that, but that's just the reality of the situation. So offering a stronger commission than what other people are offering.
Okay.
So that's one of the ways that people are doing it. It's pricing instead of pricing. So we broke several records during the 2020 and 2021 bump. We broke several price per square foot records in neighborhoods. And the way we did that is because we didn't price, everybody prices based on comps and condition. We priced based on competition. And so we looked at, okay, well, like when we sold our personal house and we were going to build, we decided not to build, we renovated another house, and we looked at, okay, how many houses with a pool that are fully renovated, that have a new roof, that somebody can just walk right in, it's perfect. How many houses like they're on the market? There was zero. Zero. So under 500,000, there was none. So we listed our house, we got 40,000 over ask, and we broke the price per square foot record. And then we did that multiple times.
What about the story with our lot? So this is a great story. I'm in Las Vegas for a few days. I think I was there I think it was my anniversary, and we had our lot listed. And earlier that I talked to my son was listing, Shawn was listing the lot. And one of my friends who lived in this subdivision, it's called the Sanctuary. It's a really nice subdivision in Mandeville. He said, man, he called me and he's like, you wouldn't believe this. All of the available lots, the Crosbys just took off the table. So there's nothing left. So I'm like, okay. And at the same time, you were calling me with a full price offer. Multiple people that had offered full price for the lot. I told you I remember I said, I'll call you back. And I was walking with Angelina on the strip. And I said, I'm going to turn all of them down, just flat turn them down. And then we're going to relist this, and I'm going to talk to Junior, and we're going to go for it. And so I remember I told you to turn all of them down, and then they got in a bidding war for it. And I think we drew 50, we had a half acre lot, and I think we got 50, 60, 70. No, I think we got 80,000 more than we initially wanted. $80,000 more. I think we had it listed for 140, 150, and we wound up getting over 200,000.
Yeah, 225.
225 for it, which just blew anything that had ever happened in their way. And that goes back to your point. Listen, you realize I realized it too. If there's no inventory, then the game changes because guess what? I'm the only game in town now. There wasn't hardly any other lots listed. I think I might have been the only one, and we took I think the most that a half acre lot had ever been sold for was 140 or 150, and we sold it for 225.
Correct.
So that's an example of the way that you look at things and how you've gained an edge in the business, man. You know. So and I know you've done this with multiple people, similar things.
Yeah, and we have dozens of stories just like that. And now, not every situation works out perfect, but
when there's an opportunity,
yes, you have to take advantage of it. And and so So offer a strong compensating commission.
Yep.
And this is for if you're looking to sell your house too. This is a good strategy. Price based on the competition. So I think it's a great exercise. If you have a house with inventory picking up significantly, and now there's not a feeding frenzy on every house, is going around to see, hey, houses that are this square footage, this bedrooms, go up and down 20% in square footage, 30% depending on what your market bears, and go look at those houses as a seller. Or as an agent, and go look at those houses, go see what it's done. And that's what we used to come in with, a laundry list to sellers and say, this is a non-negotiable. For us to list your house, you need to do these 8 things. And it's like, we know, and if you do these things, we know you're going to get top dollar. And, that people kind of went away from that with how good the market was, and people were just buying houses for anything. And that's not the way it is anymore. So
you got to get back to the basics.
Yeah. You got to get back to the basics. It's blocking and tackling in football.
Yeah.
And it's and that's the problem, is fundamentally you've hit a lot of the good agents because the market's been so good, and it's been a popularity contest, who's spending the most money marketing, and those are the agents that reap the rewards of this crazy market. Now, we reap the rewards too, and we took advantage of it, but we still know we came up in the business because I was 21 when I got in it. Nobody I knew would deal with me. So we had to start with, I would cold call listings that had been on the market 6 months to a year and a half, and we'd turn around and sell them in under 30 days. That was our promise to sellers, and we did it time and time and time. I mean,
I remember asking you, like, what are you guys doing different? And I remember you telling me that getting the seller to get the house where you need it to be.
Yep.
And then the description and the pictures, man. And then that was a winning formula, I think, huh?
Yeah. And now again, it's more of, it's that plus, offering a compensating commission, pricing based on the competition, going to see what's out there. And then also too, understanding how the dynamics of your neighborhood, of your city, of your town are changing. Like Boise, Idaho, people are leaving Boise, not coming in. You have to understand that, and you have to face the reality, because the worst thing you can do is go live in the past and go price your house
right
$100,000 more than what it's supposed to be, and it just sits. Because in real estate, negotiation's all about leverage.
Yep.
And so who has the most, I've heard people say who cares the least, but really all that just means it's leverage, right?
Yep.
And in real estate, there's only one real point of leverage, and that's multiple offers, that's competition.
That's right.
But if you don't have competition, there's 2 points of perceived leverage, and that's time on market either way.
Yep.
So
you look at a house that's 6 months, like, well, something must be wrong
correct.
with it. Yep.
Nobody versus a house that's on one day. So that was always our strategy, is we figured out how many people it would take to come see our listings, and a lot of times that would take 30 to 45 days to get them in there. But we would say, how can we get them in there and create urgency and get them in there in the first 7 days? That was always our strategy. So if we said this house is going to take 10 showings, we would try to get those 10 showings in one day if possible. But
how did you do that?
So one of the ways we would do it is, again, writing a great property description, professional pictures, pricing the house correctly, building urgency around the listing, and then it's calling agents that we know hit in the area, that do well in the area, and making sure they know about it first, and we get pre-showing set up.
Because you did all of this with no marketing dollars, really, right?
No marketing.
No paid advertising.
No paid advertising. Yeah, and so we'd build urgency around the house before we'd come on the market, and then again, my clients did the things that we asked them to do, so we knew based on the competition, they've already seen all these houses, this is going to be better.
Yeah, so you had confidence because you knew they were walking into a tight house.
Yep.
All the things they look for. Because I remember walking through a house with you when we were looking at a house, and you were pointing all kind of stuff, and it's like I wouldn't have noticed it, but I guess people do notice that when they walk in.
Yeah, and a thing too that people make decisions emotionally and then justify them logically. And so if you walk into a house and the first thing you see is rotten mold on the front door, then all of a sudden your mind shifts from being excited and about where's my furniture going to go and what kid's going to have each bedroom, and
do they have black mold in the attic maybe?
Yeah.
Is there mold here? Am I going to get sick? Yeah.
So there's something called a reticular activating system, which a reticular activating system, the perfect analogy to this is a car, right? Your brain cannot focus on everything it notices because you'd go crazy. So whenever you buy a new car, you get immersed in the process. You buy it, you spend all the money on it, you sign a payment, right? You're really immersed in the car. All of a sudden, everyone in town bought that car with you. right?
Yeah.
They didn't really. You just all of a sudden noticed it. It's the
Yes.
same thing.
I gotcha.
When you start noticing one negative thing, it compounds. And your reticular activating system now is geared to pick up bad things versus if everything's clean and pretty and looks good, now everybody's geared to pick up the good things. They go walk through the house, they go make a decision emotionally, and then they start justifying it logically. Well, this doesn't have 5 bedrooms, but we can share them. And it's like you're sitting there with a husband and wife who said, or a single person, whatever, hey, it's a non-negotiable 5 bedrooms. And they're sitting there talking about buying this house. And you're like, guys, what happened? Yeah. And, it got them.
Got them.
Yeah, the person did the house properly.
Yep.
Set up the house properly, and they did all the things they were supposed to do. And now this person is making a decision emotionally.
So you hear this, real estate agents, no shortcuts. You notice the attention to detail, every little thing. There's all these mental things happening behind the scenes for the prospective buyer, right? And so when you start to learn how they think, and now you build your strategy and make sure you plug all those holes, just like in a sales presentation, if you know all the objections and you address them in your presentation, when they get to the end, they just say yes, right?
Yep.
That's what happens. And so, but that's good, man. Those little details do go a long way, and that's probably not a lot of agents are thinking about it from that perspective.
There's very few. I was lucky that before I got into real estate, I flew up to Omaha, Nebraska to meet with the #1 agent in the country, and he taught me I didn't ask him one question about marketing and sales. I asked him all the questions of, hey, what's the process? Tell me the process. Yep. And he would just tell me, hey, you don't sell a house at the closing or at the time. You sell a house, all the things you do before you list it, and it's like, so focus on the process, not the results. And so anyways, those are all the things you can do to help improve, improve your odds of once you get a listing. So again, it's challenging to get a listing right now, but if you do get a listing, these are the things you have to do. You can't do what you did 6 months ago and just show up, you take the pictures, you don't have them do anything. You don't have to have the tough conversations because it's not fun telling a seller, hey, your house looks like crap. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You need to take furniture out. And we've had to do that. I mean, I've had to hire friends to go move furniture out of a house just because I knew it wasn't going to sell in its current condition. And so anyways, there's just things you have to do. You have to get back to the basics, and then you have to find buyers that have to move, and you have to find sellers that have to sell. I mean, it's that plain and simple. And if you can find a way to do that, and like one of the best, in my opinion, one of the best strategies to do that's tied into
direct mail.
Yeah, and it's like target.
So let's talk about that a little bit. If you were spending money on marketing and advertising right now, and we work with a lot of real estate agents, what would be, what would you think the tactic in what segment of the market? I know we talked a little bit about maybe the elderly part of the market, because it's like this. They could sell their house, move into. They don't have that price pressure because probably they have a lot of equity or the house is paid off.
Correct.
And they might just say, to heck with this. Let me go move into a retirement facility or with one of my kids. And maybe I know we talked about that maybe being a segment of the market that you can go mine some gold from, right?
Yeah, and and I know this is stuff that we're actively working on. So I don't want to give too many of my trade secrets.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'll give it all away. I'm not. I know what we do is unique, and we can. I don't mind. Competition's good for the market, so I don't mind. But But
I've got an exclusive with you, just so you know. In Mandeville, I got an exclusive.
There you go. So for anybody in Mandeville, stop listening. Anybody outside of Mandeville, it's so the baby boomer population is the biggest population, and so if you can go pull a list for people who are and you could even call your retirement home, say what's the average age of the people moving in your area, and then you can go pull a list and say, hey, how many people who've lived in a house for 12 plus years, 15 plus years, who have less than X percentage of their mortgage, and start marketing to them, because those people are eventually going to have to move into some kind of, they're going to have to move in with their kids, or they're going to have to move into
or downsize.
Or downsize, yeah. So, and those people are great buyers and sellers, because a lot of times they're going to have a significant amount of, if you're pulling 12 years ago, I mean, they're going to have a significant amount of equity.
Yep.
They're also not going to be or they're going to have their house paid off, and they're going to go downsize too. So they're going to sell their house for one price and then get to go downsize into another
So you get
price.
two sales.
You get two sales out of it.
Yeah.
So that's a big market. Also, people who started missing mortgages, people who are currently on the sheriff's sale. Those are all things you can. The sheriff's sale list, you can go to your whatever your county or your parish,
or you can get triggers, or you can
Yes.
you can buy triggers, right? That people that are late on their mortgages, you can get trigger leads
Correct.
from that too. I think.
Correct. And again, the benefit is, and some people might be saying, well, that's kind of slimy, I don't want to do that, but it's not slimy at all. It's these people. Some of these people might be in situations where they're completely paralyzed. They don't know what to do.
Maybe you're the only one that can help them.
Yeah, and you go in there, your message gets in front of them. It's like, what's the term you always use when it's like something gets in front of somebody and you're like, it's like magic or osmosis or
yeah.
And now all of a sudden this message is in front of them, and you can go be a resource and help them and show them, because a lot of these people are going to have equity.
Yeah.
And you can go show them, hey, you don't have to get a foreclosure. You don't have to have that go on your record.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we can go sell your house. You can go put money in your pocket,
Yep.
take care of some of your other ancillary debts, and you can move on in life. And
Yep.
so it's not
It's not slimy. It's serendipitous. If it's only slimy if you say, "Hey, I'm reaching out to you because I know you're late on your mortgage." It's more of, "Hey, I'm reaching out to people. I'm a real estate agent," and it's more of just a serendipitous. Hey, we pulled a list in the market that we think that might be we might be able to help, and that's it. So it's not weird at all.
Yeah, and so and it's the same thing with older people. Is older people need help. They need their hand held. They need somebody to give them direction. And do you want an agent that's just going to go throw a sign in the yard and put a lockbox on your grandma's house to help her get to the next stage of life? Or do you want an agent who really knows what they're doing, who's going to focus on the process, knows the blocking and tackling of real estate? Mm-hmm. And so you need to look at it more of it's, hey, I need to get in front of them. I need to win this business because I know I'm going to do the right thing. Because quite frankly, there's a lot of agents who don't do the right thing. And so, that, and just to touch a little bit more about marketing is, so when I first got in the business in 2000, the end of 2013, agents were talking about the last recession and what happened. And at that point, the average top agent in each market had been in the business less than 5 years. And you'd say, well, how is that possible? Real estate's been around for a long time, and it's because 5 years from 2013 was 2008. The end of 2013 was really 2009, and that was after the market recession. The agents who got in then, who weren't used to making all this money in the easy way and had to go learn the hard way and weren't scared and pulled back, they were able to gain market share quickly because all the other agents pulled back and retracted. There's a guy named Pat Hyben, who I've listened to his podcast for years. He was a top agent in the Maryland, I think Washington, D.C. area. And he talks about his biggest regret in life, period. And that's what it used to be. I haven't heard him say this in a while, but I know back when he started the podcast, he'd say this all the time, is that he didn't put his foot on the accelerator during the recession.
Wow.
He pulled back too much because he was scared, as opposed to pushing forward because he knew, hey, we can weather the storm. Eventually, we're going to get out of this. Now, obviously, don't go put $10,000 of marketing on a credit card if you don't have the money. But it's, if you can push forward, you have a chance to really gain market share once these agents fall off, because the real estate's going to be here for forever. Unless BlackRock has some kind of evil plan to steal all the houses, but
which they might.
They might. But for the most part, real estate's going to be here. So if you can weather the storm and get through it, and if you keep your foot on the pedal from a marketing perspective, I think you have a chance to really gain market share in the business.
So what do you think is going to happen with the whole? Because what I've noticed, because we work with a lot of real estate brokers, a lot of real estate coaching and classes and courses, that side of the business. What are they saying right now? What are they telling people to do?
Yeah, some of it's fear mongering. And they're using it as a sales tactic, which I don't agree with.
Which they've got the secret sauce, and you have to sign up for that course to get the secret sauce.
Yeah. Where, the harsh reality is that's not, their secret sauce probably isn't going to save you. But they're, some of them are realistic. Like I had a real estate coach several years ago, and he's been saying for 12 months, hey, winter's coming, hope you're prepared. And so he's a good, he's a good guy, and he's saying the right things. But there's a lot of them who are just pushing this false narrative that you need to do our thing and our system's going to work. But it's like the system you need to work on is just like we talked about. You need to get back to the basics of, because it's not going to be easy to sell a house anymore.
Right.
So you need to set yourself apart with actually being a good agent, not being the best market agent. Now you do both, and you're going to gain so much market share, it's going to blow your mind.
You probably got to be out in the community more, attending community events. Just you got to the basics when you start. These are all things you have to do to get going. You got to get back to that. You know, you said something interesting a little bit earlier, and I want to unpack it a little bit. Is talk about that process when you decided to start, you know, investing in flipping real estate, and walk through that process. What pieces did you have to put together? How did it all work? Did you have partners, and how did you get your money? Like, share with the audience, like, how did you go about that step by step?
Yeah, so I'm pretty risk adverse, and so what has happened over the last several years is that I've been successful, relatively speaking. I'm not Jeff Bezos by any means or Mark Zuckerberg, but for our area and at my age, I've been successful.
Yep.
And so a lot of people have come to trust me and rely on me, and now I'm an expert to most people that know, like, and trust me.
Yep.
And so when I go to them with a plan and opportunity, and I can clearly articulate it, they're willing to spend money.
They've seen your success.
Yeah.
They've watched you for quite a while.
Yeah. So that was the main trigger to get it all going. Again, because I'm risk adverse.
And how many people are involved with you? Like, how did you put the deal together?
So I have like 5 different investors that will work with me.
Okay. So step one is, if you've done a good job, you should be able to go meet with people in your community that want to use their money to make money. And if you've done the things you're supposed to, then you maybe get a yes from them. Yeah,
and if you've sold houses for long enough, you should know who the first people to contact are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's not. But here's the problem, right? Is most agents I see with investors they rely completely. They're really just somebody to show up and turn a key and to list a house for them when they're done. Whereas instead, I pride myself on being a resource. Mm-hmm. Like, and you can ask anybody who does investments with me. I could call my main investor right now and say, "Hey, have I told you to buy more deals or turn down more deals?" And he would say, "It's probably 20-1." That's what he would say on the phone. So it's
you putting them in a good position.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not just a win for. It's not just the money's for me and I'm gonna make the money on the deal and screw them. No, it's really protecting their money like it's my own.
Yeah.
And that's how you do that enough times, and then those people have financial advisors that then go connect you with other people, or even they want to give you.
So what, did you team up with a builder also?
Yes, and so I have contacts in the building and in renovation world and in the developing world.
Yep.
And I knew those people, and I said, "Hey, here's what I want to do." And like, we did a development. We split off 5 different lots and sold them all, and we did really good with that. And so I did that with a developer friend, and then we're building 2 specs, doing that with a builder friend.
So where do you think the openings are? Sticking. I'm sure you want to continue to do this. Maybe it's going to change a little bit, but what is going to be your approach now? That is it more cautious? Is it just you got to measure 4 times instead of measure twice, hammer once?
Yeah, and I think it's going to be area specific, because now I'd highly suggest, if you don't have somebody who's an expert in developing, who's done it a lot, don't touch development. Because development's complicated. It can take a really long time. Yep. And I've seen people lose everything doing development. So that's building specs and flipping houses is much easier. But you have to, like, the thing we're doing now is we're buying deals. So we went back to the beginning of right before the pandemic. We went back to what was the pricing then, and that's what we say. If we can get a deal and buy it and put the money into it and sell it for those prices and make money,
then it's a deal.
Then it's a deal, because we just have a firm belief that no matter how prices would have to sink so far to get down to that level, that we feel safe with that. So now, obviously, we're not making as much money if we get down to 2019 prices, but that's what we're focusing on, just being more cautious. And then on specs, we're really holding on specs because we think construction costs are going to come down. We're seeing signs that permits are starting to slow. Year over year, they're down for our area at least. And again, different areas. Some areas are going to have major housing shortages, so permits might be way up. I don't know each area, but I know our area permits are down, and so renovation permits are down. All permits across the board are down this time last year to this time this year.
Oh, wow.
So we just know that's going to slow down. That's going to decrease the supply houses. Anytime I go into a supply house, I'm working on a project, I ask them, "Hey, how are y'all looking on inventory?" And I'm
Gotcha.
asking them this because I'm trying to project where a price is going to be. And the sales reps are, you know, they're too honest sometimes because they probably shouldn't be telling me this, but they're like, we have 2 months more inventory than we normally have.
So therefore, if you're building a house, you know, now all of a sudden the game has changed because there wasn't much to negotiate, man, for the last little bit, man. It was just this is what it is, and you either take it or you don't take it. You can probably go squeeze your, you know, whether it's plumbing fixtures, whether it's electrical fixtures, those kind of things, you know.
Yeah, we saved 15% on plumbing fixtures from that exercise, exactly.
From that exercise.
Yeah, from the building contractor prices. We just said, hey, and we're doing this we're not just doing this to be Mr. Scrooge, and we just know prices are going to go down.
Yeah.
So we need to get the cost of the house.
You can't even build something unless these people play ball with you, because then the numbers aren't going to work.
Exactly. So we're trying to get everybody down 15%. That's kind of our goal. You know, obviously there's going to be hard costs that are going to stay the same. Like land, we're not going to be able to get 15% cheaper.
Yeah.
But if we can get as many things as possible, concrete, you're not going to be able to get 15% cheaper. But if you can get as many things as possible, lumber, it's the same way.
Yeah.
It's you know, but if you can get as many things as possible, 10 to 15% cheaper, that's going to make the cost of the house come down, let's say 5%. And it's like that makes 3 to 5%. That makes on a $700,000-800,000 house, that makes a big difference.
That's a big difference, dude. Yeah.
Now if we have appraisal issues or the market goes down, we have that buffer now built in.
Yeah. So everything you're talking about, man, it's like you just gotta. There is the party is over now, and it's time to go back to work. And the people that have a process, that follow a process, that understand the market, that are accounting for all these things you're talking about, those are the people that are going to win at the end of the day, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the people that can effectively articulate that. Yeah. Or get enough word of mouth. Because as an agent, if you do all these things, and you do the right things all the time, and you don't have a crazy word of mouth, then how do people know these are the things you need to do? You need to be out there talking to people, explaining this. You know, and it goes back to some of the, like when I got in the business, I cold called listings that had been sitting on the market, and I would explain to them why their house didn't sell. 9 out of 10 times when I'd go sit down with somebody and explain that, they'd say, it's common sense, right? Yeah. It's not common practice. Right. And so when they say, oh, well, that makes perfect sense. All these things you're saying makes perfect sense. We're going to list our house with you. Yeah. And so you have to get in front of people. You know, so that's another thing that's going to come back. When I got in the business, calling expired listings and for sale by owners, cold calling them was really popular.
I remember that.
Yeah, over 50% of my business my first year came from that. You know, we were rookie of the year. We got in the top 10% nationwide of agents in our first year in business, and it was and I only worked with, I think, maybe 5 people I knew. We sold 36 houses, so it was mostly from people who had no idea who I was.
So yeah, you know this is when, because you've always had this insatiable. We did a podcast yesterday about, you know, 6 of the qualities that every successful entrepreneur has, right? And arguably, I've heard experts say that an insatiable's appetite to learn is like the most prevalent one, the most important one. And I think that's what I'm hearing today from you. And I always knew you were like this, man, just because you like to know, man. It's like you just want to know how the game works, right? Yep. And for people watching, whatever business you're in, the real estate business, the mortgage business, the marketing business, you have to know, you have to be the most authoritative figure. You know, I remember when I got in the car business, the general manager said, you know, you're a rookie, you don't know how to negotiate, all these things, man. And they're like, when you sell your, I think, 12th to 13th car, then you will be more of an expert than anyone that sits in front of you is, right? So I'm like, man, this makes sense. So I've got to be the expert. How do I become the expert? I got to know everything about my industry, every question, because if I can anticipate those things and they're hearing a different story from me than they're hearing from every other sales guy out there. Yep. And it sounds like, you know, this is something that you've practiced this and you've seen the fruits of it, where, listen, when you're going through a transaction and it's the biggest purchase or biggest sale that you typically in a lifetime is your house, man, to be sitting across the table from someone, you're looking for that assurance that you're putting the keys in the right hands, right? You're looking for an assurance that this guy's going to do the right things, maximize your investment, maximize your return. And the only way to make people feel comfortable like that is you can't cheat that. You can't flim-flam that. You actually got to know what you're talking about, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And
for sophisticated buyers, right?
Correct.
People that know what they're talking, you're sitting at it, you got to be able to deal with somebody who's a real estate expert, and you still look at you as the expert. The only way to do that is you got to dive deep, and you have to be a master of your craft.
Yeah, and by the way, just for all the sellers out there, if an agent comes to you and says, and they start showing you things they're going to do to sell your house, but it's all about marketing themselves as the real estate agent, that's a total red flag, and they have no idea what they're doing. Okay. When I tell you they're completely clueless, they're completely clueless.
So the agent ought to almost be invisible, huh?
Yeah, well, it just doesn't. I mean, there's nothing wrong with marketing yourself, but if your main pitch to why you should list with me is that I have billboards,
right,
that has nothing to do with selling your house.
Exactly.
I can't ever remember a time where someone's bought one of my listings and said, I bought the house because of you. No, it's I bought the house, and they start naming the things why, and it's like it's because of the things that we taught the seller to do.
Gotcha.
Period.
Wow.
And it's like, so anyways, I just know unfortunately, there's a lot of real estate agents that their pitch is, look how many magazines I'm in, and look at all this stuff. And it's like, that's just garbage. That's total garbage. And, it's just a recipe for, they're spending, instead of spending their time and money on selling your house, they're spending the commission they're making off you on branding and marketing themselves, which again, that's important. I want to brand and market myself too.
Right.
The good agents are going to do that as well, but you just don't want that to be the only thing they do.
I see.
So anyway, just food for thought for any sellers out there, but it's yeah.
So there's going to be an opening. There's going to be there's going to be an opening, and what would you tell the experienced agents, anything above and beyond what we've already talked about? Or what about new people coming into the business? Is this a good time if you're a newbie to get involved right now, or does timing have anything to do with entering in and deciding you want to be a professional?
Yeah. So there's a story of I read it in a book, and I can't remember which book. I've read so many books I can't remember which one it came from or what company this was about. But there was a company in the oil and gas business that manufactured pipes for oil rigs or for some kind of something, right? They manufactured pipes. Small mom and pop company, but the guy was real conservative, real frugal, kept operations tight. The oil crisis in the 80s happened. I don't remember what year that was, but I think anybody listening would know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. It's the oil crisis happened. Well, all his big competitors went out of business. And he just decided, well, hey, I got all this money saved. I got, we kept operations tight. Why don't we grow and why don't we just try to grow? And all of a sudden, when they came out and the oil market increased again, they got back, he was the number one distributor of whatever he made in the world.
Wow.
In the world, out of Texas. The guy became, several hundred millionaire. Again, I'm sure somebody will be able to reference and remember the book or the person, because there's not that many 100 millionaires out there. But this, so the point I'm making here is a recession, in my opinion, obviously there's financial impacts, but a lot of a recession in the way people act and the things they do and the success they do or don't have has a lot to do with their mindset around it. And if you believe there's opportunity, like Harvard did it, there's a Harvard Business Review about this, that the people who had the most success during the Great Recession were the people that believed that they saw it as an opportunity versus something that was happening. Hey, this is bad that's happening to us. It's a downturn. It's obviously it is a downturn. But so I think if you look at it more of hey, this is a great opportunity, and I just need to find it.
Yep.
And I need to find what to do. So to answer your question, and that was the long way of answering it, is I think it's a good opportunity as long as you just have realistic expectations. Hey, you're not going to walk in, everything's not going to be perfect right away. But just like when I got in the business, the market wasn't incredible back then, and we had to really learn. We had to learn, and we had to focus, and we had to practice. And I'm sure there were some sellers who, in the very, very beginning, who were unhappy with us because maybe we messed up this thing or messed up that thing. But you have to go come up with a process or follow somebody else's process, and you just have to trust it, and you have to go. And that's what I did. I got to the office every day, called for 3 hours. We spent the rest of the time prepping listings, prepping sellers, working with buyers in the evenings and on the weekends, and we just did that every day. And we didn't care, we didn't focus on, well, how many commissions do we have? Are we going to make it? Nope, we just focused on doing that every single day.
Yeah. So you hear that, young agents, older agents, hey, the honeymoon's over. you got to get back to
Yep.
you got to get back to basics. So I want to touch on one more thing before we close this out. So as a father, it's incredibly satisfying to sit across the table from my son, see the young man that you've turned into. What were talk about some of the things that the impactful moments maybe in your childhood and in your young adult life that, because you always were, like, to me, destined for greatness. Like, I always knew you would have a plan and you would execute the plan. Like, is there any things that happened in your childhood? I was there the whole time. I just can't put my finger on it because I'm not you, that have helped you kind of, because it sure can't be from me. So, because you have the mind, you're a thinker, man. You analyze things, and I think that's what's happened in today's world. The difference I see, I'm a Gen Xer to today's world. Man, when we were little, we were out in the streets, just like, you were too. You were kind of raised that way too, man. I can remember you and your friends at 11 and 12 years old. You had a credit card and you were running around all, freaking doing your own thing. And in the midst of that, I know what happened with me is you have to learn conflict resolution. You have to learn how to be fast on your feet because you're always getting into trouble. You're always doing something you don't know what's right and wrong. You're out there just figuring it out. What were those things maybe in your childhood or as you were growing up that were really impactful, where you knew that this is a direction you wanted to go in? Whatever you did, you were going to do it with excellence. You were going to do it, learn, become a student of the game, become a real expert in what you were doing so you could provide a great service to people. Like, where'd you get that from?
Yeah, so I say I got it from a combination of three different things. So one, my dad, for anybody listening. Number two, my mom. And number three, a combination of different figures that I kind of looked up to, whether that be one of my grandparents or, this sounds cheesy or silly, but like Walt Disney. Mm-hmm. And I'll jump into each one real quickly. But so number one is the biggest thing was belief. And so Rockefeller was about to go bust in the oil. He was really struggling in the oil business. He was supposed to get on a train that he was going to go meet with the Vanderbilts to go negotiate his deal. He missed the train, was late, missed the train. Everybody on the train died. It crashed, everybody died. He then was convinced he was put on earth for greatness and that he was supposed to be. So I think I was instilled just from you and my mom that I was going to do great things. Also, I saw it in real life. Like, I saw you have a lot of success in life. Mm-hmm. And so I had belief that, well, if my dad can do it, I come from my dad, I can do it. So belief was the first thing. Number two was and again, I got this from several people, but not caring what other people thought. Mm-hmm. So I see that's one of the biggest problems with youth today. And like you telling me, just from stories from college and different experiences you had, from Papa telling me about when he owned his convenience store and the things they would do. And it's, and then even from my mom, it's I learned, that my mom would do things and my mom would say things and she just didn't really care. She didn't really care what people thought. And so I kind of realized the value of, and I picked up, now some of these things were good, some of these things were bad that I learned from, but what I noticed is that you have a huge advantage if you just don't care what people think.
Right.
And so I learned that in football.
Amen.
Yeah, like in football, I had guys come back to me and say, Shawn, I didn't like you as a teammate, but I followed you and I respected you because you pushed us. Yep. And I knew you wanted best for us and you wanted us to win.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to be liked. And I heard one of the coaches was saying I think Nick Saban was saying that was the biggest problem with kids nowadays is that they just have to be liked. And I just didn't care about that. So, and I think that goes to a lot of things. Like, my first job was working for you. I ran a call center.
Right.
Like, I had never done anything like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people would be nervous. I don't want to get on the phone. I don't want to sound stupid. I just didn't care.
Right.
Like, I was like, I'm going to keep doing this till I figure it out. Yep. It's the same thing with real estate and all. So that was something I really picked up from you guys. And then the last thing is having, I learned to have an imagination. And so and I really, really mainly got that from you, but also like hearing stories about Walt Disney, how he just had this thing he wanted to create. Like, nothing had ever been created like it, like Disneyland or Disney World. And he just said, nope, I'm going to do it. And it's like you constantly would preach that. And you for my whole life, you worked you work for yourself pretty much. And it's like, you want to do something, you came up with an idea in the shower, I'm just going to make it come to life.
That's it.
And it's like, so have an imagination and then having the ability to go act on that, which I still, that's something I need to work on, is actually acting on it. But it's just having an imagination. So I would say, belief, not caring what people think, and having a great imagination. Those are like, that's how I always look back and reflect. I reflect on that a lot. That's like the three. And there's lots of other little ancillary things that I learned, but just to keep it simple and sweet, that would be the main takeaways. So
that's great advice, man. That's great advice. And listen, as a father, I could not be, this is what you hope your kids grow up to be, man, so every day that I see him, he's got 3 little girls, a beautiful wife, thriving business, his little daughter. I was hoping Hads would come here today and we could have her on. She just started her first we're breeding entrepreneurs. Listen, we love small businesses, local businesses, big businesses, people that are out there that are taking a shot, man. Those are the fun people in life, man. Entrepreneurs are just incredible, dude, just because they are willing to take that risk, right? That's one of the characteristics is you have an aversion. You don't mind being a risk. You'll step out there and take some risk, and so
yep.
So if people want to find you, listen, Shawn is a great resource. He's not somebody that's going to dig in your pocket all the time, and so, but he also is a great resource. How would people follow you, or how do they get in touch with you if they wanted to reach out, your social media stuff?
Yeah, so you can follow me I'm most active on Twitter, which is just Shawn Burst Jr. is my tag, but also
ShawnBurst Jr. And we'll put that up on the screen at the end of this.
Yeah, and I'm on Instagram. I don't really use Instagram, but if you want to DM me to talk to me, it's also Shawn Burst Jr.
Okay.
I know on Twitter I have to be following you to DM. So, anyways, if you want to DM me, Twitter would be the way to go. Instagram would be the way to go.
Yeah. Hey, real estate agents, connect with him. He's it takes a village sometimes. We're leaning into our marketing community, and when times get like this, it's all about having that network, man. So don't shrink back from it. This is the time to lean in. I think you've got some great insight from Shawn on where the market's going, but also some great solutions on how do you deal with a market that's not the way it's been, right? You got to be able to be adaptable. And so we hope you guys enjoyed it. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, man. I love you, kid. And,
love you.
And dude, it was awesome, brother.
Yep. Thank you.
Yes.